We'll call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock. Please take the roll call for us.
Absolutely. Jim Sheeline,
Here.
Arlen McLean, Rick Humphrey,
Here.
Tom Kitson,
Here.
Larry Mamini,
Here.
Doug Farster.
Here. Thank you. Let's visitors. Mike, have you got anything special this morning?
No, sir. Thank you.
Marilyn?
Just observing.
Gentlemen, Mr. Mandrell and group from Sauk, anything special, or are you waiting to be part of the meeting?
It's part of the meeting, if we're asked to speak, if not, otherwise.
All right, thank you. Dave? Nope. Any IT?
I don't have anything until you speak to the issue under new business.
All right. Nancy?
Oh, shit.
Okay. Jim? The tree line.
Nope, I'm all good. Just so the committee knows that I do have a time certain that I have to be at, so I'll be leaving probably before the meeting gets over. Just so
Okay. Amy?
Morning. I don't have anything at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Stacy? Morning, Stacy Stewart. Anything special this morning? Hey, Wendy?
Nothing that's not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, approval of minutes from the previous meeting. If everybody's had a chance to review them, if there's no corrections or additions, they'll stand as read. Okay, seeing none, meeting or the minutes will stand as read. Treasurer's report, Paula. Paula's not here.
He was
Okay.
here.
All right, let's come back to that. We have anything from Gredco or Insurance Committee?
No.
Nothing from
Okay.
Gredco. Monthly resolutions, Joseph Meyer. We entertain a motion to approve the Joseph Meyer resolution. Move to executive committee. There's one on there.
I'll make them.
Lara makes a motion. Second, Doug.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Old business. The boardroom technology upgrades and update. Wendy?
I'll take that. So we made a tactical decision to delay the going out for bid on the boardroom technology upgrades, with the exception of the tablets and the onboard software, in lieu of the IT services bid that went out and that Paul will be talking to you about here in a bit. So next bid that we'll go out on is for the boardroom technology upgrades. So other than that, I don't have any other update unless anyone has any questions.
And I apologize to visitors. Charlie, you're right behind Rick, and I knew you were here. Anything you've got? Okay, I didn't mean to ignore you. I knew you were here, but you're right behind Rick. Thank you. Okay, we got a resolution compensation for elected officials and county board members. It's still tabled at Administrative Services Committee. So unless somebody has something on it, I think we can just let it ride.
Did they talk about it yesterday?
I don't know that. Was it discussed yesterday?
It has not been discussed at any of the committee meetings so far. Again, admin said in lieu of I think the discussion was that we wanted to wait until the negotiating contracts were settled before we start talking about some of this other stuff. So they're just holding it back, and we've got time to do it. So.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, no, you're fine.
Are you guys moving that fast?
Yeah.
Way past you.
iPads were just flying along here, I tell you.
It's Bob's fault.
You want to do the treasurer's report and the financials and quarterly and all that?
Yeah, so out on your I don't have your book is the financial reports for the end of November. It is a quarter end, so you do need to formally approve them. We're no longer going to send you two sets, one that says just the quarter. I think that if we do the year to date through that quarter, we're going to meet the statutory requirements of approving that. So these are actually all the reports as of November 30th. We did also give them to you in December. They're probably tweaked a little bit because we were cleaning up for the audit. And they may yet change. The auditors are here next week, so they may change a little bit again too if they catch something that we didn't catch as far as tweaking things. But so bottom line, the general fund is balanced, or it's set at zero actually, because we transferred out. We had a surplus this year of about 2.6, and we're transferring that to the capital fund. So the general fund is sitting at basically a zero net income for the year type of a thing. So that's where we're at. You also have the summary of revenues for the year and how all those came in. That's included in here. And we did come in high on really everything. Everything came in, sales tax, income tax, everything was high this year. Property tax is about where it usually is. So we had a really good year as far as that goes. So.
You have to do anything committee-wise to approve us doing this, only the quarterly and eliminate the monthlies, or is that something we just? I don't have a problem with what you're saying, but do we need to? They may know we have to do anything procedurally to make that.
They have to sign.
Yeah, there's a form that they have to sign. So I think you know, the report is out there. I think you just need to accept the quarter end report as presented.
And then sign the form.
Right, but to eliminate doing it monthly as we've always had in.
Oh, no, we're going to do it monthly. You're going to
Okay.
get a report every month,
Okay,
but on the quarter end, we're going to accept it as the quarter end report.
thank you.
You're going to get a monthly
All right,
report.
okay.
Yes.
All right, okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Sorry.
No, my misunderstanding, sorry. We have a motion to approve the quarterly report. Laram, Doug, Laram seconds. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, pass that around. Laram, you want to sign that, pass it on? New business. The IT services bid approvals. Need a motion to approve and move to executive committee. For discussion on that, or do you want to? The bids is.
Do you want to get a motion and then a second, and then we can, Paul does have a bit of an overview that he can give you, so.
We have a motion to send that on to executive.
I'll
Laram,
make that motion, Tom.
okay.
I'll second.
Jim makes a motion, Laram seconds it. Any discussion? All right.
Want me to speak to it? I did move. Did you want me to speak to
Yes,
it?
please.
All right.
Please.
So Lee County recently issued a request for proposal to find a vendor to install, service, and support upgraded file servers and network infrastructure to secure, backup, and consolidate much of Lee County data infrastructure. Essentially bringing together all of our old servers, some of really, really old ones, and put them on a platform that, one, is centralized, and two, backed up on site, and three, backed up off-site. Is an additional security measure, in addition to beefing up the security for our wired and wireless networks. A key goal was to distribute the cost of the critical hardware and infrastructure and the service and support of that infrastructure over a 3-year period to improve our ability, my staff's ability to better support all Lee County departments. Essentially, we're getting hardware and talent, not just buying hardware. So that's why we called it a managed IT solution services partnership. The Lee County IT department, essentially me, recommends that the board accept Syndio Networks bid for our recent managed IT solution service and solutions RFP. Not only was Syndio response the lowest bid by far, it was the only response that fully met the RFP requirements. So in this response, I asked the board to, when you move it forward to the full board, to approve these costs related to the Syndio response. There'll be annual fixed fees for 3 years, each year at $99,885.12 for year 1, 2, and 3. This includes the cost of the hardware, the installation, Incendio's ongoing support for the server software, for the server hardware, and for our network infrastructure. And then there's will be a one-time incurring charge, which isn't really optional if you accept the annual fees of $15,711.33. And that's essentially a down payment going to Hewlett Packard for our hardware. Then we need some server software on top of that, and we can't distribute the cost of that necessarily over the cost of the 3 years. We have to purchase it. And the cost for that is a quote from Incendio is $24,687. I've gone out for some preliminary additional quotes, and the Incendio quote seems in line with the going rate for this software. So I'm asking you to approve all of these three for a total of $140,283.45 for the first year. Then year 2 is $99,855.12, and year 3 is $99,855.12. We have the money. It could be paid from the capital budget line items that you've reserved for IT and for contracted services in the IT budget. This would exhaust these budget items, and I'm fine with that. But if additional IT projects come through, and they likely will, I will have to come to the board to finance those additional projects. But essentially for year 1, you don't necessarily have to approve any additional financing. Now we're going to be paying Incendio on a monthly basis for this. And we can give the board updates as regard to how our fund balance is and any upcoming projects that weren't initially part of the IT plan that might come to us from other departments in the county that doesn't have either pass-through money or something else associated with it. So I'm asking you to forward this to the full board for a vote. And if you have any questions, you can contact me directly. You can answer me now or between now and the next meeting. Any questions?
So was this budget, Paul? I can't remember when.
We capital budget for the hardware, but since I filed that request in July, then because of things nationally, internationally, and August and September, security of your backups became even more expensive because the hackers are now going after your backups. So the cost for this started going up. Then the realization of how departments request things kind of last minute, and if Stacy's on the line, she didn't request her item last minute, so I'm not picking on you. But every time we have to deploy a new server, it's kind of a chore, a challenge. This new infrastructure allows us to do what they call spin them up a little bit faster and sooner. And so talking to Wendy, instead of asking for more money for contracted services and asking maybe for a little bit more money for hardware up front, let's distribute the cost over a year and just come up with a predictable annual amount that the board knows about. So we're not always coming to you and asking you for a big chunk of change, just the plan for this going forward. It kind of like you're getting hardware and talent for the price of a very well-paid employee, but we're getting the talent of an entire company rather than hiring just one person. And it's including this a server platform that has on-site backups and off-site backups, and that if department does come to us with a new server request, we'll be able to, what they say, spin it up quickly. And if that department has pass-through money or grant money, we can always apply it to any of the costs then for that year's support agreement.
If I could add just a couple things to that. So this kind of fits in with the board chairman's initiative to, prepare and plan ahead for the whole hit by the bus theory. Again, by having a consultant like this doing these critical infrastructure types of services, even if the team member from the consultant that is working with us gets hit by the proverbial bus, we've got a team of people that can still support that. Whereas right now, if Paul were to get hit by that bus here, we're again, critical support structure would fail. And not only would departments be left in the lurch, but the county as a whole would be left in a lurch. So again, when Paul first gave me this concept, and I approached the board chairman about it, we were very enthusiastic for the idea of this critical infrastructure items being, kind of backed up with this idea that if somebody gets hit by a bus, we can still keep operating.
Yeah, we'll keep the lights on, we'll keep all the departments running. And for example, in the hopefully unlikely event that all of IT gets COVID or something, Cindy would be able to help us manage things, remotely, in the future through goals and the service management goals. So I'm really looking for, and this is why we're kind of talking about in terms of partnership. And we did have another bid come in that $342,000 a year, but they didn't really want to partner with us. They just wanted to provide certain services and move certain things to the cloud. And their interaction would have been remote only, not hands-on, on-site, and not, checking in with us periodically.
So how much of this was actually budgeted for?
Well, actually, for the first year, all of it. So about $100,000 in hardware and then $50,000 in contracted services. But we're adding to this some new network switches and some new firewall and additional costs for encrypting the on-site backups and the off-site backups, and some additional other kind of security services at the firewall portal. So and this also gives us service level agreements for all the equipment in terms of service and support, and will allow the local IT team to address the 60 or so other projects that we have in the queue, not just support tickets, but projects that people have asked us to take a look at. Again, in my almost year here, and I thank you all, it'll be a year in the first week of February. We have over 1,100 support tickets and approximately 60 project level, more than a day or two things to work on that people are waiting for us to address. This will help long-term, again, in terms of the hit by the bus type of thing, and also allow you to better plan for the cost going forward, because they'll be predictable, they'll be budgeted, and it won't be an annual review every July, August, September for you.
So in here, you say you've got 99,000 and some change for annual fixed costs for years 1, 2, and 3. What happens in year 4?
Year 4, we take a look at, there'll be an option to acquire the equipment at a rate from HPE. So that will reduce the cost of the contract, or we could re-up it. There's also an option to extend it to year 4 at a reduced rate, because we've already kind of paid down any investment on the hardware. Hewlett Packard has a kind of a formula they issue to you a year before the agreements are over, and we'll know better than what the year 4 and 5 might be. But I would at this time just plan this as kind of as a pricey employee, but it's also not just the employee, it's the talent of a whole company in addition to the hardware. Because right now we have servers that are no longer supported by Microsoft, no longer supported by the antivirus vendors, and that's a problem. And what you want to do is be able to, plan for success and support going forward. And I'll just remind you that the next bid that came in was $342,000 for years 1, 2, and 3, and then $400 in year 4. They wanted to charge us $100,000 just to back up our email, which was, I think they missed the mark of the RFP. It's unfortunate. I spent a lot of time on the phone with some of these vendors answering their questions too. So, and a couple of them opted out because they simply didn't want to be a partner with us. They want to have it all or nothing. So And one of them wanted to just move everything to the cloud, which isn't an option for many of our government applications.
A lot of money on an annual basis.
Well, you'll either have to pay for it in hardware or contracted services or work on it this way. It's kind of the cost of doing IT business. Unfortunately.
Paul, how much of this was in the IT budget? How much of it was in?
50 was in the IT budget and practically 100 of it plus some change. Because I'm probably there was in the capital, you approved more than $100,000 for some of my initiatives. And one of those was for some upgraded computers. If we get a pass-through grant through the court system for some upgrades to court computers in new courts, we'll have a little extra money to allocate to this. And again, that we won't be charged in 2022 for the full 99,885 because that's an annualized amount. So we won't be paying for essentially the December and January equivalents of it. So it won't be quite that much for our first fiscal year of 2022.
How long is this quote good for?
30 days.
Are there any other counties that are doing this?
Ogle County.
Ogle County is the
Ogle
same company
County,
or?
there's mixed things. There's counties and units of government that are doing this type of thing, partnering with companies like this, or they completely outsource something, or they try to do a mix of cloud and whatever. Just that some of the applications we have here don't behave well in the cloud. Essentially, we'd be doing what they call a remote desktop solution, which you're paying for an operating system here and one on the cloud, and kind of paying two computers to run one, and that gets really costly. And this is where this one vendor was coming in at about $342,000 a year. The Syndio one's pretty aggressive, and it's limited to server support, working with us and working with our network infrastructure, but not providing desktop support or application support. That's what my staff will continue to do, and more hands-on type of support.
So what's our options if we don't do this?
To spend $150,000 in capital and another $50,000 this year, and 50 to 60 the year after, and 60 to 75 the year after. So essentially, you're just upping what I would budgeted for contracted services on an annual basis going forward. Because the 50 I planned for contractual services wasn't going to go away. It was going to be in my 2023 and 2024 request, and probably even escalate depending on the level of services that we would need. So this just kind of helps distribute the cost over the 3 years of the plan thing. So it isn't reviewing every year the additional contracted services in terms of support.
But if that's the case, I mean, we're looking at 100,000 basically every year versus 50 or 60,000 every year. We're
plus 120 to 150 for the hardware up front now.
Sure.
Over 3 years.
But we're looking at 140 right there. I mean, currently.
Wendy, a question for you is, or either one of you, I guess, is this a contract that Charlie will review before we sign?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I will reiterate, not that I want to speak on behalf of any of the department heads that are here, but the feedback from them on this concept, of course, has been very, very positive, because what you're talking about doing here is, as Paul said, spending just almost the same amount of money, but we're going to have a vendor that is providing that critical infrastructure. And what that allows Paul to do with his team is to reallocate his time and resources away from the critical infrastructure upgrades needed, like the servers and et cetera. But it allows him to focus on the individual departments, however many tickets that Paul described to you. I can't remember now, Paul, what your number was. So
Almost
It-
1,200.
This concept allows the IT department to keep up with demand in a much easier way. But more important is what I said earlier. We've got a hit by the bus plan now. If we continue to give the responsibility to our internal staff, we are putting critical functions at risk if we get the hit by the bus. A year ago, before Paul came on board, we got hit by the bus when our IT person left. And for months, while we went through the hiring process, everything came to a grinding halt. Even the critical infrastructure types of things come to a grinding halt in that case. So again, when Paul came to us with this concept, we got on board and learned more about it as quickly as we could. I do think overall for the benefit of the county, this is the right direction to go. Every day we operate on the IT world here. A lot of demand on the IT world. You're sitting looking at your new tablets right now. I think this is the prudent and correct direction to go. And in terms of money, the difference is going to be minimal compared to the critical infrastructure being supported.
So if I can weigh in a little bit,
Yep.
Tom.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
So, I can't emphasize enough. Yeah, the upfront cost seems to be rather large, but IT costs have continued to be rising every year to year. This is a primary function of what we do in the county as far as handling data and handling the different, if our web systems go down, our entire business shuts down. This is critical, and I just I understand it seems like a lot of money, but it's going to end up costing us more money if we have a problem down the road, and with the hacking that's going on and all that. Internal staff would be extremely, and I think Paul, you could attest to this. Internal staff just can't handle it unless we would add considerable additional staff and headcount.
Well, actually, thank you. I came up with this idea. Wendy came to me after we sat down with her and Chairman Olson and said, "How many projects do you have in addition to tickets?" They said it's around 65. Plus, we have to, then we have the server upgrades, on-site backups and off-site backups are all, goals. And she said, Wendy's like, "Well, should we hire somebody else?" I said, "I don't want to hire one person that's a specialist in one thing. What I really would like to do is, get a bunch of talent in here. And the best way to do that is kind of amortize the cost of the hardware and the talent over a period. Plus, Wendy uses the term as, hit by a bus. I also use it as no single IT person or director is going to hold the county hostage. Nobody's, indispensable. And you'll have a backup with a partner in case there's a vacancy open either by a bus or something else. And is being in different units of government, having predictable costs have always been a goal of me as a board member on my other boards. And this allows it to be a little bit more predictable over the years, rather than every July, August, whatever, reviewing the same old. And is IT costs are going up. We've kind of neglected quite a bit of them here, and I don't know, and I don't want to revisit that. I'm here now, you're here now, but this is the recommendation I'm trying to make to help everybody in the county. And I really don't have a stake in it other than trying to provide the best service and support I can to all of the department heads and elected officials.
Is there any way the ARPA funding could be used on this, for this?
Well, some units of government claim that they are using ARPA funds for these types of projects. I believe our staff internally has looked into it and believe that the only way that we could invest ARPA funds would be, and they can speak to it, would be from against revenue loss for the county. And I don't believe we've lost enough revenue to apply to this, but I know Ogle County and some other units of government, villages and cities are trying to use ARPA dollars, and maybe inappropriately, for these types of infrastructure upgrades, because really these are things that we have to pay for anyway. They weren't incurred as part of revenue loss or something else. We should have been paying the bills for these all along. But that said, I have heard that some units of government are trying to use ARPA dollars for it. But I believe the determination here was, since we didn't have enough revenue loss, that's the only way it would fit for us in how we're using the ARPA dollars. Plus, I believe Wendy she was telling me that this type of project might not have fallen into the top 10 or 5 or whatever ARPA list that you have.
Right. The board did go through that strategic planning, and this was not something that they identified as a top 5 priority. So that's why, Doug, we hadn't, really pursued this beyond those top 5 priorities. Now we can, I would recommend you approve this and move forward, because the bid, again, is only available for 30 days. More importantly, I'd love to get this under contract and get some of these critical infrastructure things moving along. But certainly we could take this back to the ARPA committee next month, and pending their decision, it could come out, again, they could reconsider the ARPA side of things. In the meantime, though, I think we have a funding source, so I think we can move forward with the approval and just allow the ARPA consideration to be a secondary conversation.
And that would work for me, because we'll be paying Cindy on a monthly basis for this. So we'll be distributing the cost. So at some point later in the year, you determine that we can use ARPA funds for it, then at that point you could apply ARPA funds to it.
Well, I mean, I can respect what you want to do here for the county, and I completely understand the importance of backups and things. Where my difficulty comes in is basically committing the county to $100,000 a year till the end of time for backup. I mean, to me, at some point in time, I mean, after 10 years, that's $1 million. We should be able to buy a supercomputer and put it somewhere else and have our own backup, I guess, for the annual cost of this is my concern.
Buying a supercomputer, though, doesn't get you the expertise that we need to sorry, Paul, that we need to actually monitor and set up the critical infrastructure we're talking about here.
I'm completely sympathetic, to that argument. Buy the hardware and get by with the staff that we have. That it's been the model for at least the last maybe 15, 20 years here. We have servers that are almost 20 years old and break down every month that need attention and that are really backed up. Ones that are 15 years old that are in the same condition. If the card reader one goes down again, we may not be able to get into Newports or out of Newports with cards. That's a security issue. The treasurer has done a great job with the new, accounting system and the new way of filing invoices and stuff. But we only have marginal backups on that. And if we lose that data, all that hard work is gone to waste, and it's financial. And I mean, it's really, and we're on the hook for it. So I would like to,
That's also payroll.
What?
It's also payroll.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot of upset people, but I'm worried about not only the staff, but the taxpayers and our responsibility to the taxpayers. And if we lose that, so Cindio, or Cindio is the partner, if we award it to them, it's going to be there for us again through these transitions, through urgent things that we might need to deploy in the new format, which is called a virtualized server platform. Instead of having 13 different servers here with all these different versions of stuff and all this different stuff that could fail on a system that's it's virtualized, where it's all an image that can get backed up real quick. It's almost like taking literally a camera picture of it, backing it up on site and putting it off site to allow us to recover, restore. And for example, in full court enterprise and full case across the street, we're always doing testing. We have a testing server. We're always applying patches and pulling them back and the like. And this will allow us to do that more reliably and more safely. Over the New Year's holiday, Zach was working with Shannon and JSI FCE Full Court Enterprise staff to do this. And I would have felt a whole lot safer if we had a system like this in place in case something hiccuped, to be able to recover it. If something went south on us on New Year's Eve, I'd still be working on the recovery now. So I'm just trying to protect the assets that the taxpayers are paying for, in addition to making life easier for all the department heads and their staff.
Mr. Chairman, I'd go ahead and call for a question. Appreciate the explanation, Paul.
Okay. We have a question called for. We have a motion on the floor. Second. All those in favor?
No.
All right.
Aye.
No, Jim can vote in.
Can Jim vote?
Roll call.
Aye. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and do roll call if you want.
All right. Thank you. Do a roll call vote, please.
Hold on,
All right.
I have to take this call, you guys. Can you do go?
Okay. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Let me find my spot here, though.
Motion on the floor is to move this to administrative.
Executive.
Executive, I'm sorry.
Rick Humphrey.
No.
Wareham.
Yes.
Doug.
No.
Tom.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Wendy.
So this is forwarded to executive. Would you like me to be there to? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the ARPA committee recommendations. It was recommended the Sauk Valley Community College agricultural program receive $100,000. Lee County Tourism Council received $22,000, and Lee County businesses through food permit fees, $60,000 a year for 2 years. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve these items and to move them to executive committee. Lyra makes a motion. Move a second.
I'll second that.
Doug seconds. Mr. Parker. Any further discussion? Do we- Gentleman from Sauk want to speak?
Well, you're moving fast, so we'll be fast.
We're just appreciate it, but that's fine.
We're very thankful and grateful for this. We think it's a wonderful opportunity to build out our program more with a lot of new technological advances. Serve our community very well. As you can see, part of those dollars are towards a community greenhouse that will have infrastructure in it for remote access. So there's a lot of partnerships in this, and you all are a huge part of that. And we are very optimistic about the opportunities here. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. C, the stipend and bonus criteria, it's my understanding the sheriff wants to put this off till February. Is that correct, Sheriff Simonson? Okay.
Yes, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Tourism administrative fees refund. It's roughly $150 to $200 a month. It's the percentage that they pay out of their funds. If you remember last year, we canceled that fee or refunded to them, however you want to look at it. And it's been recommended we do that for one more year. That we, just a year, not a continuation, but a year, the same as we did last year. A motion?
Talking about the $22,000.
I think, isn't it like 1.5%, John, they get?
Yeah, 1.5% treasurer's office gets, and we're doing it.
I think it's like
Right.
$150.
Yes.
a month.
I mean, it doesn't sound, it sounds like kind of a lot, but it's not. It pays our rent kind of sometimes, you know.
Oh, when we did it last year, it helped them a lot through the pandemic, and we're kind of,
It literally paid our rent a couple months.
Down on number D, tourism administrative fees refund.
yes. We're at it.
I stepped out for a second.
When it was first established, it took some paperwork back in the 90s, but now it's a little less paperwork now. A lot less.
Tom, you may have said this, but I was distracted. This is something the board did last year through COVID, and at the recent ARPA committee meeting, Bob Olson requested that this be added to the agenda for consideration again this year. So that's why it's here.
Right. Sorry, I'm trying to get back on. Okay. The learning curve of this thing. So yeah, Chairman Olson asked us to review this because we did it last year and we're doing it again. Where are we at?
And how much is it?
I think it's roughly $150 to $200 a month.
That sounds about right.
And it's just, I mean, it's what they normally gave us, and we're just giving it back to them, letting them keep it to get them through another year.
Yeah, I think it was just in the agreement that just for processing costs to the county. Yeah, for hassle of sorting it out or whatever.
Probably about less than 150. We average probably $7 grand.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Humphrey.
I'll second it.
Who said that?
Doug?
Doug seconded. Okay. Okay, no further discussion. We'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item E, wages for zoning board of appeals. I asked to have that put on. Attended a lot of the zoning meetings recently, and whether you're pro or con to what they're doing, if you watch those guys, are coming in with notebooks full of stuff that they've been studying at home. They're doing a lot of research. They sit here for 3 to 4 hours a night in their meetings. We're paying the judge. The judge is being paid, what, $100 an hour or something? And these guys are still at $60 a meeting. Putting in a lot of time. We've got good people on it. And that money comes to us through the zoning charges. I'd like to see us up that to $80 a meeting for those zoning board of appeals attendees. Bring it to discussion.
You
If we have
mean
a
the
motion
board,
that's-
the board, right? Not attendees, the board, right? Zoning board,
The zoning board of appeal attend, the 5 people.
The
that are
5
on that
people,
board,
okay.
Yes. They attend a meeting, they'd get $80 rather than 60.
I don't have a problem talking about it and discussing it, but I guess I'd like to see this wrapped into the criteria that we've already talked about and passed down about the board members too. So we just make it
And
straight across the board for everybody.
And I agree, Rick, I didn't see that was on there when I
Yeah.
called, and that's what I just put on. I just looked at this after attending several meetings and watching what they were doing.
Sure.
And doing a little research on what they make, and I thought it was time. We look at giving them a raise, and I'm fine if we table it, but I'd like to just have it on the agenda, so we're looking at it.
Yeah.
And
I personally like to see ours go to like $125 a meeting for committee work, and for board meetings for us personally, just keep that at the 60, because typically the board meetings don't last as long as a lot of the committees do. So hand in hand with the zoning board of appeals, they spend a lot of time there. So, I mean.
Yeah, and they do a lot of time preparing
Yeah.
for it and stuff. So, okay, and I'm fine if we table it. Wendy?
Just Charlie pointed out, and it's a good point, that it is administrative committee that is considering the county board per diems. And so maybe you want to formally make a motion to send the conversation or discussion about zoning to them so they can incorporate that into their recommendation.
Why would we have you and Charlie?
That was Charlie. I'm just the mouthpiece over here. And that is really dangerous for me to be his mouthpiece.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that we send it to administrative to tie it together, review it and so forth.
I'll make that motion.
Tom.
Okay, Jim, Rick just made it. We'll take you as a second, all right?
Oh, that's fine.
Any further discussion? Okay, motion to move it to administrative. I mean, motion to move to administrative is made. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Nay.
Okay. 3-1, 4-1. Motion carries. And
Nay.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It is-
F, as I understand it, is going to be tabled. Something else being done. Okay. So at that point, take a motion to move us into executive. It's a roll call, right? But I have to have a motion first.
I make a motion to go into executive session under the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120-2C to collective negotiation matters.
Second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Humphrey, second by Mr. Forrester. Roll call vote, please.
Yep, we got Jim Sheeline,
Aye.
Tom Kitson,
Yes.
Rick Humphrey,
Yes.
Doug Farster,
Yes.
Larry Mamidi,
Yes.
Arlen McLean.
And guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm not going to participate in the executive session.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Don't slip on the ice down there.
So
Yeah, I'll try not to.
Okay.